Welcome to Musings with me. I'm Lisa, and I hope that wherever this finds you in your day, it finds you with the love and blessings it is intended with. So enjoy this episode, and I'll catch you on the other side. Hi, in this episode, I'm focusing on letting ourselves go. I'm going to share some thoughts about this, and I'm also going to include some solutions to those common challenges. So, what do I mean by this? Well, it's the default for a lot of mums and parents out there doing life, right? We let ourselves go before we let go of anything else. We let our need for our self-care slip away, and a lot of the time we don't even realize it until we find ourselves in the midst of it all feeling like totally undone. You know how it is. It starts in like those little small increments as we really let it go in one like massive upheaval, though I am sure this has been the case for some. Usually it happens by slipping back into our default mode of being like everything to everyone and doing all the things to support our family, friends, work colleagues, etc. And those small tasks begin to pile up and we don't take the time to address our needs. So I was discussing with my husband this week as he's been working tirelessly to keep his business running without taking time for himself. And his reply is, who's going to do it if I don't? And to be fair, that's a fair point, since I am not in any way, shape or form qualified to do his work. And wouldn't you know it, this musing is birthed in a moon boot. And yes, I am aware of how often I speak to clients and those around me about taking time to take care of yourself before you notice and are forced to take that time out, thanks to an ankle roll. Anyway, there have been some things going on in the background with family that have left me feeling like I wasn't getting a moment to stop. So things like kids' activities, meetings, volunteering, relationships, trips to the hospital, follow-up appointments, being a taxi, and then trying to fit in normal family routines on top of all of that. And I'm sure if you're listening, you know it really well. What is it within us that we create these boundaries to give ourselves support and then let all the things gradually creep in over them until we wake up one day wondering, how the frick did this happen again? How did I get here again? So what I've learned, especially in this last little time, is that we need to be aware of the following things. And this is a disclaimer here. These are not intended to overwhelm you further or to give you more to do. That is totally not the intention. They are points to ponder and maybe incorporate one or two of them to start. Their purpose is to generate thinking about what's going on for you and what small thing could make a change in your day, your week, your life. So let's get into how do we tackle this and find some breathing space. So here are some realistic solutions to like some really common challenges we face as parents and otherwise. Like you don't even just have to be a parent. These come up for other people who maybe aren't parents or are maybe teens. So number one, constant caregiving and prioritizing children's needs over our own personal needs. And that's not just children's needs, it might be other people's needs over our own personal needs. And yep, I've spoken to this before. Yes, we need to care for and love them, but if it is at the detriment of ourselves or at the cost of ourselves, then we let go of our own self-care at the expense of this. So give yourself permission to take breaks. Lean on family or friends for help. And don't hesitate to use local childcare services now and then. Ignore the frickin' haters. I have seen people pay out online, you know, keyboard warriors, get in on there and say, well, you chose to have children and you're not even doing anything, you're not going out to work. You know what? Parenting is frickin' hard. Your well-being matters. Use it. I used it to put our youngest into daycare so that I could get a day off to myself, and that was to clean and do my work. It doesn't even have to be for that. It could be self-care day, like go out and bushwalk, go and catch up with a friend, go and have that time out so that when you come back, you are more fulfilled and you're happier, you're in a better place, and you're teaching your kids to self-care. So if you have young children, you might simply need time to sleep. So use it for sleeping, which leads us into number 2, sleep deprivation, and sacrificing sleep to manage household tasks or to care for our children or other family members. Late nights and early mornings leave me feeling super exhausted. It affects my well-being physically, mentally, and emotionally, and I tend to overeat. I go for the carbs because I'm trying to keep myself going through the day, which I then pay out on myself later. So, and there's a reason they used to use it as a form of torture. Sleep deprivation was torture. And actually, it also puts yourself and others at risk of harm when driving, sleep deprived, or operating electrical appliances. Think about it. Like it just makes sense. It causes brain fog and memory issues. It affects what we choose to eat, like I was saying just before, when and how much, and how our body heals. Sleep is when we do most of our healing. If we're not getting enough sleep, then we're at higher risk of illness. And this was a massive one for me with my first baby, when I thought I had to be like the perfect mum, the perfect wife, the perfect householder. I had to have a clean house, I had to have dinner ready, I had to have perfect balanced meals and a sleeping baby. The only issue for me was that the baby didn't sleep any longer than 2 hours for the first 6 months, including in the night, and that impacted us both. So no wonder I ended up with undiagnosed postnatal depression. So if you can, try to set a consistent bedtime for you and the kids, or just you if there are no kids. If you can, sneak in a nap during the day and make sure your sleep environment is as cozy as possible. If your kids are young, sleep when they sleep, if that works for you. If they're older, go to bed when they do for a few nights to help yourself catch up. Look, I know it means you don't get to watch your favourite program, because we all know that that's probably about the only time of the day that you get to yourself, or to catch up with your partner, or to scroll social media. But you know what? You might actually feel better for it, and you can prioritise some time for that when you don't feel so exhausted. Number 3, emotional stress and managing your kids' mental and emotional well-being. Like, this is a biggie, and sorry parents of little people, it doesn't get easier, it gets different. It's probably not what we thought we were signing on for, but as we tautoko our rangatahi or support our young people, we need to help ourselves and them manage the emotional impact of their changing bodies, their world, their friendships, their school life, like study, jobs, and often on top of all the aspects of being human, like all those other things that they're having to deal with. So take a few moments each day to breathe deeply, meditate, walk, run, smash out some rounds on the boxing bag. And remember, it's okay to seek help from someone like a counsellor, or join a support group to share your load. Just be mindful of that last one, like joining support groups, because you want to be sure that you are seeking places that help to uplift you, not keep you in the same space. Some of those support groups, with as good intention that they have, end up being a space that is just about like having a wah-wah. And whilst it's okay to have a wah-wah, if that's all that space is about, then it's not uplifting you. And that's the whole point, is to enable you to get some support. Number 4, lack of time and juggling multiple responsibilities can make us feel like our time is scarce. So it can be a combination of self-imposed and outside stuff, so external pressures. And when we sit down and really look at where our time is going, it may be on pointless scrolling or trying to be perfect. Prioritize what's really important and let go of the rest. look at your routines to see if you can simplify them and focus on those essential things to free up some time for yourself. It might be as simple as reorganizing dinner routines, asking the kids to do the dishes instead of gaming or being on a device. And I know I'm guilty of that one myself. I get into this whole space of, oh, I'll just do it because no one else is going to do it. Blah, 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 blah. You know what? That doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't teach my kids how to do dishes. It doesn't teach my children how to be responsible and part of the family. And it doesn't do anything for me for feeling resentful. So enabling them to do those things and be part of that routine frees up some time for me. It could be things like organising a carpool for the kids so you don't have to do the run every week. And I am absolutely sure that other parents could use the break too. And I have managed to become part of 2 groups for this for both of my younger children where we share the carpooling with other parents. And it's an absolute godsend because you're not like up, down, backwards and forwards. One does to and one does from, and some weeks we've got enough parents in that group that you're not even doing any one week, which is fantastic. So you can just carry on working or doing what you need to be doing or having that time out without having to think, oh God, I've got to get in the car and go and pick the kids up. It's just fantastic. Really look into that one. You might have ideas for others. Number 5, guilt for taking time out for your self-care or interests. Parent guilt is so freaking huge over not doing enough for your kids, over not being available, over not having enough money for what they need. You put their needs first and don't get yourself the new jumper. You get it for the kids, whatever it is. And that doesn't affect everybody. Some people have got the money to be able to do those things, but maybe they don't have the time, so they don't go and spend the time doing a shop for themselves. They do it spending that time on their children. But it is about self-care isn't selfish. It is freaking necessary. Be gentle with yourself and understand that taking time and ensuring that you have the things you need for you helps you be a better parent. And it teaches them how to care for themselves as well. They learn, and I've said this many, many times to multiple clients, they learn more by watching us and how we roll out in the world. Not by what we tell them they should be doing or not doing, but by watching what we are doing. Which brings me to number 6, financial strain. So things like managing household finances can be really freaking stressful. It can feel like there is an ever increasing load on families with cost of living in general, costs associated with raising children, and on top of that, the potential pressure of our kids participating in activities, both in school and out of school. There's a cost involved, and this has been a big one for us this year with our son getting a car and taking on a lot more extracurricular activities, as well as increases in costs of food and power. So this can take a huge amount of mental load and really impact where and how you let yourself go. So it can really help to create a budget to manage your finances better. And you know what? Don't be afraid to seek advice. There's so many people doing it and you're not the only one. Look for community programs that offer financial support or discounts. Ask if there's a discount for paying with cash. Look at buying your fruit and vegetables from places other than a supermarket. I do this and we save a ton in that. Plus, often the product is better. They can be cheaper, they can last longer. You can get in on bulk buying with friends. Make it a challenge. Make it a challenge for the kids to get involved with budgeting. It's a skill they can take with them through life. And it will give you a shift in your perspective from we are lacking, this is not enough, into how can we make this a challenge? How can we overcome this? How can we find solutions? So instead of being roller door thinking, as one of my coaches says, stop the roller door thinking and shift into a space of solution. Number 7 is isolation. It's a freaking big one. And reduced social interaction can make us feel so alone. In my circle, this seems to happen more through winter as people they don't head outside as much, workloads increase, or we just don't take the time to catch up with friends. We're all balancing workloads, family, taking care of the home, and reduced daylight hours. You've got less hours to mow, you've got less hours to do outside things. So everything's being squished down into a smaller space of time. And I often find myself wondering through this time, when the hell was the last time I saw anyone outside of my small world? So you're wanting to connect with other parents, maybe locally or online. Schedule regular get-togethers with friends or family that keep that social spark alive. It can make all the difference. And even if you make it about going for the others, it can be a definite benefit to you too. And you get to come back feeling refreshed and ready to engage again. So even if you need to shift the perspective on it from, I don't want to go and catch up, it's so exhausting, often, we go out with that perspective, and once we get there, we actually really enjoy ourselves, and we can end up going through that space of why did I not want to come and do this? I've actually really enjoyed myself. God, I need to do this more. So sometimes by holding ourselves back and getting into that social isolation, we start to find that our perspective shifts, and with reduced daylight hours, that actually has an impact on our mental well-being. So if we are getting out, getting some sunshine, and getting out with people who are uplifting, that can be really, really valuable to us for filling our cup. Let's get on to number 8, unrealistic expectations of ourselves and setting high standards for parenting and personal performance. What does it lead to? Burnout. And this sets a precedent for our kids and teens to reach for it as well. So if that is what we are doing, and we are setting that as an example, so setting those expectations super high, trying to be perfect, trying to do everything to this massively high standard, then we get burnt out, and then we don't do anything well. This also includes trying to do too much. So remember that life is an adventure. It's an adventure. It's not a race to the end. It's not like, shit, let's go, we've got to get to the end. Woo! It isn't. It's an adventure along the way. It doesn't mean we don't have goals and dreams. It means we enjoy that process along the way. It's like putting something into the navigation map thing and going, oh, right, I'm just focused on the end, but I'm not going to worry about looking at the beauty on the way and looking at the mountains or enjoying the detours that we make to get to that amazing place. The place is amazing, but the journey is amazing too. So I'd say seek to keep your goals realistic and adjust them as needed. And remember to celebrate the small wins and the progress along the way. How often do we forget that? And we need to do that in our parenting as much as we do it in our jobs, our sports, our outside external life. We need to be celebrating our small wins along the way. Sometimes that might be, oh my God, I got out of bed and out of my pajamas and washed my hair. Sometimes it's, I got the kids to school on time. Yeah. Oh my God, my kids made their lunch. Celebrate it. These are things that maybe a year ago wasn't happening. Celebrate those along the way and give yourself credit and self-acknowledgement that you need to keep going and recognizing how far you've moved the needle. That's really, really important. And I find that with clients as well. We're often constantly shifting the goalposts, but not ever looking at what we achieved to get to the goalposts we previously had. Which brings me into number 9, information overload. Too much information can be overwhelming. And don't we all know this one when we have a new baby? Like all the well-meaning do's and don'ts from those around us, and not just on babies, because everyone's got an opinion on everything. So not only for parenting, but for anything in your life. This includes self-searching. There is so much info on the net and out there in the latest self-help books. Like, trust me, I have shelffuls of them. So limit your sources of advice. Limit your sources of parenting and or otherwise to a few trusted ones. And on top of this, trust your instincts. You know you, and you know your kids best. Find those few trusted people that you can bounce the ideas with, who aren't going to judge you and maybe steer you in the right direction. If they don't have those answers, then start to search outside of that. Sometimes we overload ourselves with trying to take in so much information that we just start to flounder and go, we get into that frozen space because we cannot then make a decision from that. So just rein back some of the info. We don't need it all. And 10, loss of identity. Like I have experienced this. It starts to make me wonder who hasn't. It's easy to lose sight of who we are beyond being parents and who we even were before we were parents. Like, we become so entwined with our children, with their lives and our relationships, and we begin to forget the things that made us who we were and what essentially floated our boat. And sometimes that's okay, because those things, they don't float our boat anymore. But sometimes we find that we can't even remember what did float our boat. And having an interest outside of our family allows us to feel like more fulfilled. And this goes for having a purpose, which it leads to that sense of self-accomplishment. So you can do some of this by revisiting some of the hobbies you used to have. You can even write a bit of a list, like things that I used to do as a kid, as a teen, that I really liked doing, and activities that maybe I got into, or clubs that I was part of, and revisit them. Like, okay, you can't go back to guides and scouts as a kid and be engaged in that, but there might be some things that you did in those times that you are interested in doing now, or you don't even know if you're interested in that anymore. So think of those and things that you did before becoming a parent, before becoming a partner or a CEO, or a vet, or whatever you're doing now. Make time for those personal interests and rediscover what makes you you. It's sort of like I was saying before, it's like an adventure. Like, who do I want to be now? And just have a little bit of an experience with it. And remember, you're doing a freaking amazing job. You really are. You really are doing an incredible job. And little changes can make such a big difference. So take a deep breath and give yourself some much deserved TLC. And don't forget to exhale. So I hope these tips help you find a little more balance and joy in your journey. If you had to pick one of these, which would it be? Just one. It does not have to be all of them, just one. Which would it be? And how could you build it into your week, into your month, into your year? What would it look like? How would it look different? How would it feel to have it in your life? What would change for you by changing this one aspect? Ponder those questions and see what one thing you could change that might just make a difference in what your week looks like, and how you don't let yourself go at the expense of everybody and everything else. May this land for you with the intention it is met with love, with understanding, and with a good dose of when the bleep are you going to do it, because tomorrow never comes. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in as always. And I'm sending mountains of love to you. Take care, and I'll catch you on the next one.